So I don't know if are you on a laptop or on using your. Okay, so there's when you hover your mouse at the top, you can choose to mute your microphone or turn your camera off. Um, that's how the little phone thing is how you exit too. So there's a couple cool tools apps you can add on the side. You can draw on people. You can put crowns on people. We're going to go ahead and get started, and people can join in as they are available. And like I said, I am recording this, and it's going to be available to everybody. You can rewatch it again. I'm going to share my desktop here. And what would help it though is that if you go ahead and mute, because as you're listening to me and as in the screen, it comes out as an echo. And so you can unmute yourself when you want to ask a question, and I'll see that, and I'll go ahead and identify that. Let's see, did I screen share? Yeah, okay. All right, so you should be seeing Megan. Is everybody seeing Megan? All right, so basically tonight to have this, the 5 components of the course are the discussions, and there's 2 posts, the basics for the readings of the chapters, and then also the gizmos. I'm a huge fan of Explore Learning. I used them when they were free, and 15 years ago, or longer than that now, almost 20. And so my students always found them valuable because they could repeat them over and over to learn the concepts. Then as they began to create quizzes and the students began to self-assess, it just became a huge teaching tool. I know in Little Rock that the mathematics teachers have access to this. So if the school district is already paying for the math teachers, then they also are paying for the science teachers too. So you might want to get on board if this is something that you're finding valuable that could be used in your classroom. It's also great for differentiation. Students who are moving above in the middle level, so if you have students who are really advanced or really love, say, black holes or the physics of electricity, and then they can advance on. It's the same thing as with if you're in the high school, you have remediation of some concepts that you don't have the time to necessarily reteach in the classroom, so you assign these as outside assignments or as rotating stations that the students can go to and refresh their memories about vocabulary and access to. I just find there's lots of good value with the gizmos. And the next thing is the NGSS review, which some of you have already completed, and Live Binder, and then there's a mini unit. It's actually just a 1 week. So of lesson plans to show your flow of science content as you move through maybe one standard and how you address that throughout the week, or it may be a series of multiple standards and how you would link them together. And lastly is this hands-on demonstration, which we will do our second meeting in the class there. So we'll start with this course pocket guide, which I hope makes sense. It just took that weekly assignment that's all in text and broke it down into different sections. And then the basics of everything and what you should think about doing. We're going to do kind of an introduction to Live Binders if those you who are online don't know. Otherwise, it kind of is there's videos that are available too, so you can have that independent, but I will, if you wish, I can do that tonight and go over that. So then there's just the basics. The next week is just your reading discussion, and then also the Explore Learning. We can move into looking at the big components, which is that Live Binder of collecting of resources, which some of the things you may already have access to. And then there's also that unit, that 1 week, that 5-day unit that you'll be able to do. So it's pretty much self-paced as you go through. And I'm always online, so as you're working on something or you have a question about one of the discussions in the reading or the text, you can always email me and I'll get back with you as soon as possible. Except between about 8:30 and 6 o'clock, I kind of shut down. So after this, I will be in my pajamas and all technology off so that I can get ready to hit the bed. I like to read before I go to bed. I'm reading at home at Mitford right now. It's one of my favorite books. So when you're doing your gizmo reflection, this is your rubric. And you just pretty much are talking about the science behind it and how you would use it. So if you're thinking about your students in your class or potential students in your class, and how might you use this particular item, and then the idea of alternative assessment. You're going to think about differentiating to meet different interests. So you're thinking about music, you're thinking about performance arts, you're thinking about performance assessments like laboratory. You're thinking about things that are going to draw the students in. We got another person joining. Hi, Will. There's Will. Hi, Will. Welcome. All you have to do if you want to ask a question is to unmute at the top. You should be able to see your screen here, and so you can just click unmute there, and I'll be able to hear what's going on. We're just now talking about the gizmo reflections, and what's going to happen is going to freak you out when you go to the grade book because it's going to say that you have 10 out of 50. As you are completing these, each one you complete adds on to a new score. So as you do your second one, it'll then be, say, 20 out of 50. And if there's a possibility that you don't make a 10 out of 10 on the reflection, you have the opportunity to discuss it with me and talk about what it is that you did not get full points on. And if there's a disagreement, we will be able to discuss about that. If it's obvious that you may have missed, say, this real-world application and you didn't have that, you can actually write that back in and I'll give you half the points back. I'm a firm believer in being able to learn from your mistakes, and if you don't get to correct them, then you're not learning from them. So that is totally your option. You'll have 1 week after each thing that you submit to me to make those corrections, because I know time is of essence and you need to be able to schedule that in. So you have 7 days to be able to make those corrections. But basically, it's just identifying how you would use that gizmo or the science concepts and how might you assess that other than just taking a quiz or giving an exit slip. So you're thinking creatively. And I gave you a couple of links on Blackboard. I'm going to switch over there. So in that weekly assignment section, here there are 2 different links, these 2 bit.lys, I don't know if you can see that you can click on that will take you to some ideas of alternative assessment. I need to fix that so that it opens up in a new window. So basically identifying what alternative assessments look like, and then instead of just saying, I'm going to have them write a journal, I want you to kind of be more specific. Are you going to have them write a journal in the point of view of the water molecule as it travels through the water cycle? So kind of be specific so that as other people are reading your post, they can come up and think about the idea and how they might be able to apply it. I've really seen some good collaboration already, and that's what's so much fun about working with people of the same discipline, is because it starts to, even though some are chemistry and some are physics and biology and geology, you all have that same passion for inquiry and you begin to have that creative mindset. So when you begin to work through these gizmo reflections, don't forget to go back and look to see what other people are doing with their alternative assessments and their real-world application, so that you can help make some concepts more relevant to your students as you teach them in the classroom. So let's go back and let's talk about the gizmos and see if any of you have any questions about what to do with the gizmos. I like wait time. I know it's uncomfortable, but it's important to give you stuff, the thought of processing, and so I will actually wait for about 10 to 15 seconds. So, but it's a good thing to get used to. Silence is uncomfortable only to some, and it actually gives a person the time to think, especially your students who have some actually processing disorder where they actually need to think about what you just said and then actually think I have this question. So it's hugely important to think about giving yourself wait time. So with that, all of you shook your head except for Pepper and William because I can't see your heads. But you didn't take off mute, so I'm assuming I'll go on. The other is the discussion rubric, and this is the one that relates to your text, but basically it's the same idea. Are you answering the questions, and are you being thoughtful about your responses? And it's just to get you to look at the readings and how you teach and what you do, and how you can apply it to your own content area. And as you go through the text, it's important to think about that. I've provided the first couple chapters for you, but that's just in case Amazon did not, or I didn't say Amazon, the UCA bookstore was able to get to your information to you in time. Okay, I forgot to go back to sharing screen, so you didn't see that. All right. Now you can see the discussion rubric. So it's pretty straightforward about your responses and the scoring of that. This is the same way in the gradebook as it's going to be for your gizmos. Please do not stress out when you see that you have a 10 out of 50 this coming weekend. You got 10 out of 10 points for this discussion. Next weekend, you'll have 20 out of 50. So as you go through each week, each of those will be added to it. I know it's kind of stressful at first, but it's a lot easier than putting each of these discussions in the gradebook as separate entities. So the next thing to look at is our NGSS review. And just really quickly, who show me on your hands or some, you can type in and tell me like 1 through 5. 1 is that you are not really familiar with NGSS at all, and 5 is you've actually done some workshops in PD and you know it really well. You hold up a finger. Nice. Also, Pepper and William, what you can do is they're over in the left-hand side is a chat window. So you can click on the little blue link and you can type in your information over there so I can see that. So if any of y'all, if you have a question that pops up immediately, y'all can just type that in and then we can get to those too if you don't want to interrupting me. Good deal. Look at you, Will, all on the up and up. Okay, so here's your NGSS. All of these are hyperlinked to the different components. Arkansas is using NGSS to rewrite their standards. They've done K through 8 already and are working on high school. So those of you who are middle level, you want to be very familiar already. They'll be adopted. The new standards will be adopted soon this coming year, and you want to, high schoolers, take a look at that because that's what yours is going to look like. As you go through, there's different components for each section, and the section 1 is just asking you to look at the specific learning expectations that you have. So I'm going to click here. And these are all by topic. So I'm going to move down to my high school, and I'm going to click History of Earth. I like geology. This is my first set of learning expectations. The clarification statement basically is identifying specifically what I'm going to teach. And the assessment boundary, it kind of limits me as far as what I might not do. Well, let's go to a middle level, History of Earth. See, there's assessment boundary that it does not include naming specific periods, epochs, and events within them for the middle level for this particular statement. But in the high school, there is no assessment boundary, so it would include all the different components that you see listed here about the crustal rocks. The other thing is that you can then click on this disciplinary core idea. This is what this information represents, and you can see the three components that relates to this performance expectation. You've got the science and engineering standards here, and as you move over, you can actually click on this and it will color it. So what the verbs evaluate evidence of, that's the science practice that the students will be able to do. So think of these similar to objectives. The students will be able to evaluate evidence of. The disciplinary core idea is the actual standard represented. You can see these down here, and so this is what they'll be able to do with that evidence. And the cross-cutting concept represented here is patterns, and it tells you what those patterns might be. The other cool thing, you got to scroll on down, is it gives you Common Core connections, the mathematics and ELA, which is huge for the interdisciplinary connection. It gives you course mapping of what this looks like in the 3 different levels. But over here also you have some lesson plans that have been written that relate to this particular standard. You can view the source. This is from PhET. If y'all aren't familiar with PhET, it is thebomb.com. It is another simulation site like Gizmos. But depending on the platform you use is a little bit different whether you need to download it or use it. So it's not quite as technology friendly as Gizmo, as Explore Learning, but it has way more simulations that you can use with it than what Gizmos has there. So they have different goals in mind, but it's a great source. So that's, and then here we go again, the performance expectation. Here's the information to the teacher. You have, again, the blue is the science and engineering practices, those verbs that students should be able to do. The disciplinary core idea is the content that they should be able to know. And then the cross-cutting concept is that unifying big idea that is linking this particular performance expectation to other informations as well. And this one we said patterns and that were represented. So that's going on down and viewing them. High school engineering design, if you look and click on this, it gives you a little synopsis of what that might look like. And then the actual engineering design performance expectations are represented. Again, a clarification statement. They're saying that basically you should be able to analyze major global change. That doesn't need clarifying, and then they should be able to do it to the fullest extent all the way through. So don't forget to click on these as you go through, especially for those of you who are looking at middle level. There's going to be some differences there as what you need to limit the content to. And again, our 3 different components. These are really easy to read, like I said, if you think of them as objectives. The students will be able to design a solution to a complex real-world problem. There is your content, and what they will be doing with that verb. And then again, the unifying concept that's going to have the big idea between each of these. And these are the engineering concepts, which are a little bit different from the science ones. you can get a little bit lost in all this in this website, but don't get too distracted. If you get frustrated and you start pulling your hair out, just walk away and come back to it. They're daunting with the information. If you want to look at just disciplinary core ideas, you can click on that. Say we want to look at heredity. So I'm going to click on this life science. And then I'm going to move down to looking at variations of traits. And this allows me to see how I can move, how this particular type of student performance expectation moves vertically. And this is huge for teachers because you need to know what were they supposed to learn before they got to you, and where is it that you need to take them to be ready for the next level. And then and that's high school, that's getting them ready for college. So thinking about that. And then as you go through, here it is specific into the different grade levels. So in elementary it says 3 through 5, but it's actually taught only in 1st and 3rd grade. Here's the middle level. If you'll need to think about what that looks like in Arkansas and where they put that as far as 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And then high school, like I said, that's not written yet, so we don't know exactly what that's going to be. Obviously biology, but is it also a possibility of being in some other kind of connection to another course? So thinking about your next generation, I'll go back. If you're so welcome to just simply go to File, make a copy, and then change this copy of to be your last name. And then you can hit OK, and then hit this share button on being able to still see me. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. I was having to do the 2 screen recordings for some reason. It's quit recording. Okay, so again, back to this review. Some of this is opinionated. Some of this is applicable just to your subject area. So it depends on the question. It depends. You get to choose what you want to relate it to. So if you're chemistry and you're answering all your questions through chemistry, that is fine as well. If you want to do interdisciplinary and you want to look at the maybe you want to teach physical science, so you do a physics, the integration of physics and chemistry together, and then that's totally acceptable. Or chemistry and geology. You get to pretty much choose what you want to look at. So in this particular section 2, you're going to look at across the grade levels, and that's where you'll take and do that vertical alignment, be specifically between middle school and high school, and you're going to look at a specific performance expectation. So here, back to that beginning one more time. So I'll go to, I can do science and concepts, planning and carrying out investigation. And so I'm going to look and see how this moves vertically alignment throughout my middle school and high school here. We're just going to focus on that. But my middle school people, I would really encourage you to go back and look in what the elementary is requiring of them. In high school, it won't hurt you either. The other option there again is you go down here to high school. We click on energy. This is your performance expectation you'll do. And you can click on, again, this gives, here's a high school one that actually gives you an assessment boundary. So this is your performance expectation. And then down here gives your different concepts. And you're going to look at them, look at them vertically. So it's a lengthy assignment. It does take some time and thought because it's relevant to you as a teacher and your subject area. So Any questions on that one? When is that due? Good question. So I'm going over here back into weekly assignments. NGSS, July 10th. Share your Google Doc there. Okay. So moving then to the 5E unit. The 5E lesson, there's several videos on what that looks like and what those represent. It's all about planning your lesson so that the students are exploring and making the investigations. It's taking the power away from you in the classroom, the process, and you become the facilitator. That you can't just get up and go and walk out of your house and roll into the classroom and begin going. It takes a lot of preparation and a lot of time and planning, but when you're in the classroom, it's nothing but play and fun as the students are doing the concepts. So explore is the hands-on typically part. It's also a lot of this internal investigation that students can do either independently or in small groups. Engagement is basically like a hooker is showing a little leg. It's going to give you that information of this is what we're going to do, and then to draw the students in. Sometimes it's a story, sometimes it's a video, sometimes it's a challenge to them, a problem, a question that you're asking. Explain is where the students are going to take what they've done during Explore and start to tell you and their peers what they found out. And this is where the teacher begins to understand what the students are actually taking away. Too many times in the classroom, we'll sit and talk to the students and we'll tell them what they need to know. And then we ask, are there any questions? Just like I did. And while we don't know what they're thinking, we can't see it. We can see facial expressions, but again, we don't know if that's actually even related to us. So what happens in Explain is that we provide them opportunities, journal writings, we provide them performances, we provide them small group discussions, whole class discussions, but it's a way for us to learn what they actually know and to apply the vocabulary that's necessary for them to be able to effectively communicate the science. After they've done that, there's kind of like an Explain Part B where you can come in as the teacher and say, okay, we need a workshop on this. You really need to identify the differences between these two components. There's a big misconception happening as a whole class. Or, as oftentimes I've done, I will say after they've done there's Explain Part, and then maybe the next day, I'll say in 10 minutes or 5 minutes, I'm going to have a workshop over here in this corner about this particular item. If you feel you need to come over and talk about that and learn a bit more independently, join me in that time. And I'll have a timer. I set it off. When it goes off, we go to the corner and we sit and talk, and we have a little mini workshop that happens. That only needs to occur after you've learned what the students are actually understanding. Elaborate is an extension of them applying the information. So you've had them hooked in with some problem that they're investigating or question they're solving, or the idea of what they're going to be investigating. They do it, they talk about it, they apply it. This can be an application to the real world. It can be an application to what's happening locally, maybe in the community or in the classroom. Personally, it can be an extension to another subject area, an application and graphing and analysis of data, but it's taking that and pushing it to another level. Evaluation happens throughout this whole process, and that's what I have this written here, the formative assessments throughout the lesson. So as you are facilitating each of these components, how do you know the students are doing and understanding what you want them to do? What are some things that are happening? Are you having a checklist and you're observing? Are you listening to conversations? Do you have a short discussion with each group that you're looking through? And then there's also the idea that maybe there's some lab report that they're doing during Explain that you're going to take up and actually have. Maybe they're creating some kind of digital presentation that represents their information that they've identified. So that could be represented there too. And then this is the general. If you find this online, go for it. You do not have to create these lessons by yourself and independently. If you find them online, do it. You just need to reference, hey, I got this here. And, to give credit where credit is due. Safety is huge. NGSS has a large area on their website that allows you to understand about safety, and I highly recommend to you, I will be sharing this link with you, but Flynn, F-L-I-N-N, Science has a safety certification test that allows you 3 years of certification. And it's huge to have on your resume for those of you who are still trying to find a job teaching. That you can add that in there that you are safety certified in the classroom. They have a middle level and a high school level assessment for that. This summative assessment basically is this idea different here from your formative assessments. It's just differentiating between those two. The difference between that lesson plan and this is to help you plan for your unit. Here's your 5 days. And so you're going to think about what you want to teach for the 5 days. Your objectives you're going to write. The standards, just copy them and paste them in here. For the middle level people, you're going to use the new standards, the Arkansas K-12 Science Standards. And the high school people, you'll still use the frameworks, because that's what you'll be teaching. Yours won't be available, I believe, until 2018. So even if you're graduating in 2017, I don't think they're going to be quite ready for you yet. So go ahead and just use the frameworks that you're used to using. And just to let you know, that's here. There's a link here to the K-12, Arkansas K-12 Science Standards. So again, high school, you have this represented in the frameworks. Middle, this is what you're going to use here, this color version. And if we look, looks just like NGSS. Student performance expectation, everything. So high school years will eventually look like that. So back to that 5-day planner. These are short and small because that's what they need to be. These are going to just be ideas that will come to you and how you're going to share them throughout the days. This is to get you planning and thinking about taking the standards or a single standard and how you're going to share that out. The benchmark lesson is going to be the content that you're teaching. The inquiry investigative ideas is the exploration process part. The student artifacts, in other words, what are they turning into you and how are you going to be grading them, how are you evaluating them? Now, there's a difference in assessment. There's things that you're looking to see what they're understanding, and then there's also that same thing looking to see how they're understanding and you're taking a grade for it. So if you're actually going to take in a grade for something, then go ahead and put in graded lab report. Or you can simply say exit slip, and we'll understand that that is a type of assessment that is not graded. Resources, again, just copy and paste the websites in here or provide us that it's in your textbook and what's the name of that textbook that you use. Your book for this class has a lot of resources in it as well. You're so welcome to use those. Finally, the hands-on activity. I know we're over time, but I'm almost done. And this hands-on activity is something we'll talk about that first day we meet. So that's why I left it for last. We're going to really go through it and what you'll need to bring the second time we meet. And that's where you're going to actually do your demonstration with your peers and perform these different activities that would be related to the grade level you teach or would want to teach in the subject that you're teaching. And like I said, we'll go over this more in depth once we meet that first time. I believe it's the 23rd of July. So if you like, I can do another Google Hangout next week as you're going through. It's not a problem. Y'all just let me know. Send me an email. It's like I'd like to do another Google Hangout, and I'll put another doodle poll as far as a time and a date that would be helpful. Again, you're going to be able to the next week meeting, 8 or 8:30. Is that your question, Megan? Okay, that's up to y'all. So if y'all want to do something earlier, that's fine. Or if we can do 8:30 to 9, that might be doable too. I'll just do another doodle poll to see what is most popular. I also record it again, and so we can everybody can be in on the conversation. So it'll be, again, optional. If you have the time to hang out, then you're welcome to. If not, then you can check on the video. You can email me as you're going through the assignments. That's one great thing about doing online classes is that you get to work at your pace, and you can ask the instructor your questions at your own pace too. So that's all I have for you tonight. So I'll give you another 10 to 15 seconds if you have any questions going on. No questions going on, so I will say ciao. You're very welcome, Ashley and Will. So I will see you guys on the flip side. I'll see you online. Always email me again. Let me know if you're having issues. Don't struggle through it for hours upon hours and then decide the day it's due or the day before it's due that you're needing assistance. Let me know plenty of time in advance so that you can be just as successful as you and I want you to be. So have a great weekend. Find some time to do something for yourself, and I'll see you guys later.